The hospital bracelet was still warm from the dryer when I pulled it from the pocket of Megan's jeans. I stood there in our laundry room, the hum of the machines filling the silence, and I just stared at it. Cut cleanly. Someone had used scissors. My eyes traced the faded text. Emergency room. Megan Taylor. 2 a.m. The date was Tuesday, 3 days ago. I was in Seattle closing a logistics deal that Tuesday. She texted me at 11 p.m. that night. Heading to bed. Love you. I remember reading that text in my hotel room, smiling like an idiot, thinking about how lucky I was. 9 years married to this woman. 9 years of building something together. The bracelet felt light in my hand. Practically weightless. Funny how something so small can carry the weight of your entire life. My first instinct was to march upstairs, find her in the kitchen where I could hear her humming some song, and demand answers. That's what my father would have done. That's what he did do, actually, when he found the credit card receipts from my mother's little adventures. He screamed, he cried, he threw things. And in the divorce that followed, he lost everything. The house, the business, his dignity. Mom's lawyer painted him as an unstable, controlling man. The judge believed it. I was 14 when I watched my father crumble. I swore I'd never be that man. So instead of confronting her, I did something that surprised even me. I pulled out my phone and photographed the bracelet. Both sides. Clear shots. Then I folded it carefully and put it back in her pocket. Put the jeans in her drawer like nothing happened. That evening, I watched her across the dinner table. She asked about Seattle, about the deal, about whether I'd had time to see anything other than conference rooms. She laughed at my jokes. She touched my hand when she passed me the salt. Normal, affectionate. I missed you, she said, and her eyes were warm. I missed you too, I replied. And I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not rage, something more useful, calculation. I should tell you about my father before we go any further. Bill Taylor was a good man who made one catastrophic mistake. He let his emotions drive his decisions. When he discovered my mother's affair, credit card receipts, classic stuff, he confronted her immediately, screamed, threw things, called her every name in the book. Her lawyer recorded it all. By the time the divorce went to trial, my father had been painted as an unstable, controlling husband. The affair became a footnote. His reaction became the story. He lost the house, lost his share of the small business they'd built together, lost custody of me for 2 years until the appeals court overturned the ruling. By then, the damage was done. He spent the rest of his life working 60-hour weeks just to stay afloat, and he never fully recovered. I was 14 when I watched him crumble. Standing in the kitchen while he wept at the table, legal papers scattered around him like fallen leaves. She took everything, he kept saying. She took everything and I let her. I swore I'd never be that man. When life hit me with something like this, I'd be smart about it. I'd be patient. I'd win. So that evening, while Megan laughed at something on the television and leaned her head against my shoulder like she always did, I started planning. I didn't sleep that night. Megan curled against me like she always did, her breathing slow and steady, and I stared at the ceiling running scenarios. The logistics business I'd built over 12 years had taught me one thing above all else. Never negotiate without knowing the other side's position. Never react without information. Emotion is expensive. Patience is profit. The next morning, I went to work early and closed my office door. Then I called the hospital billing department. Hi, this is Connor Taylor. I'm calling about a visit my wife had earlier this week. There might be some insurance confusion, and I'm trying to sort it out before it becomes a problem. The woman on the other end was helpful, probably because I sounded calm and reasonable instead of accusatory. She couldn't tell me much, HEPA and all that, but she confirmed the visit was coded as soft tissue injury, treatment and release. Soft tissue injury. At 2:47 in the morning. While I was 1,000 miles away, I pulled up our joint credit card statements next. Nothing from that night. Not a gas station, not a parking fee, not an ER copay. She'd paid cash or used a card I didn't know about. That second option sat in my stomach like a stone. That evening, I tested her. "Hey," I said casually over dinner, "did you go anywhere Tuesday night? My buddy Mark thought he saw your car near downtown." "I don't have a buddy named Mark." I watched her face carefully. She didn't flinch, didn't pause, didn't look away. "Nope, home all night, binge watching that terrible reality show you hate." She smiled. "Your buddy needs glasses." The lie was smooth, practiced, the kind of lie that comes from experience. This wasn't her first time. I called Derek Foster the next day. We'd been college roommates, stayed close over the years. He specialized in family law now, handled divorces for people with money and complications. "Derek, I need to ask you something, hypothetically." There was a pause. Derek was smart enough to hear what hypothetically really meant. "Go ahead." If someone were getting divorced in Virginia, someone with a business, assets, a house, what would they need to protect themselves? Another pause. Longer this time. "Documentation," he said finally. "Everything documented, assets cataloged. And Connor, hypothetically, whatever you do, don't leave the house, don't move out, don't give her any ammunition." "Understood." "And hire a professional. Don't try to investigate this yourself. You'll miss things, or worse, you'll do something that gets thrown out in court." "You know someone?" "I know the best. Her name's Valerie Cross, former FBI, expensive, worth every penny." I met Valerie at a coffee shop in a strip mall off Route 7, the kind of place where nobody looks twice at anybody. She was in her 50s, gray hair cut short, dressed like she was headed to a business meeting. Nothing about her screamed private investigator. That was probably the point. "Most people who hire me already know the answer," she said after I'd laid out the basics. "They just need proof. You understand that?" "I understand." "And you're prepared for what I might find?" I thought about that bracelet in the dryer, the smooth lie over dinner. "I'm prepared." She nodded, sliding a folder across the table. "I'll need her schedule, car information, phone habits, anything you can give me. Payment is $5,000 up front, cash. 2 weeks, and you'll have everything you need." She paused. "Or confirmation that you're wrong." I handed her an envelope. "I hope I'm wrong." But I knew I wasn't. "Mr. Taylor," Valerie said as I stood to leave. "One more thing. In my experience, the initial discovery is rarely the full story. There's almost always more underneath. Prepare yourself for that." "What do you mean?" "I mean that when people start lying, they don't usually stop at one thing. The affair is the tip of the iceberg. The question is always, how deep does the ice go?" I thought about that the whole drive home. The next 2 weeks were an exercise in controlled insanity. Every morning I woke up next to a woman I'd loved for almost a decade, kissed her goodbye, and drove to work wondering what she'd do when I was gone. Every evening I came home to home-cooked dinners and easy conversation and her hand finding mine on the couch. But I was paying attention now. Really paying attention. Her phone was always face down. I'd never noticed that before, or maybe it was new. She showered immediately when she got home on Wednesdays and Fridays. Not other days, just those two. And she'd started going to a new gym, one across town. The old one was 5 minutes away, the new one was 25. "The equipment's better," she said when I asked about it. "And they have this yoga class I love." I nodded and smiled and added it to the list. On day 8, Valerie called. "I have preliminary findings. You should come to my office." Her office was a converted apartment above an insurance agency. Blinds drawn, Computer monitors everywhere, filing cabinets lining the walls. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Your wife has been meeting someone at the Ashford Hotel downtown," she said. "Every Wednesday and Friday for at least 2 months, based on parking garage records. The hotel caters to discretion, executive suites, private parking, staff trained not to notice faces." She slid photographs across the desk. Megan entering the hotel lobby. Megan exiting 3 hours later. A gym bag in her hand, different outfit visible inside. "She brings workout clothes as a cover," Valerie said. "Classic." My throat was tight, but my voice came out steady. "Who is she meeting?" Valerie's expression shifted slightly. Something that might have been sympathy. "I ran the plates on a car that's consistently there during her visits. Same parking level, usually within a few spaces of hers." She slid another photo across the desk. A man's profile, caught mid-stride. I recognized him immediately. Ryan Caldwell. The room seemed to tilt for a moment. Ryan, my former business partner. The man I'd started my company with fresh out of business school, full of optimism and handshake deals. The man I'd discovered 4 years ago, secretly negotiating with a competitor, feeding them information, undermining everything we'd built. I'd forced him out, bought his stake for $1.2 million just to be done with him. Signed NDAs to keep it quiet. He'd left angry, threatened vaguely. "You'll regret this." I'd assumed he meant lawsuits, business retaliation, not this. "You're sure?" I asked. Valerie slid over one more photo. Ryan and Megan in the parking garage, his hand on the small of her back. Her face turned toward him, smiling. "I'm sure." I picked up the photograph of Ryan and Megan in the parking garage, his hand on her back. Her face tilted toward him, smiling. Something I'd seen 1,000 times, that smile, but never directed at another man. Never with that particular softness. "How long?" I asked. "I can only confirm what I can document," Valerie said carefully. "Based on parking garage records and hotel booking patterns, I've been able to access at least 2 months at this location." But, the level of comfort between them suggests this isn't new. The routine is too smooth. They know each other's schedules, each other's habits. "This isn't a fresh affair, Mr. Taylor. This has history." I set the photo down, looked at Valerie's wall, covered in certificates and commendations from her FBI days. Woman had seen everything. Probably nothing surprised her anymore. "Ryan was at my wedding," I said. "He gave a toast." Valerie didn't respond, didn't need to. "He and I started the company together. He was my closest friend for years." I heard my own voice like it was coming from somewhere far away. When things went bad between us, when I found out he was betraying the business, I thought that was the worst thing he could do to me. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. Just keep digging." I drove around for an hour after that meeting. Couldn't go home, couldn't go to the office, couldn't sit still. I ended up in the parking lot of a grocery store, hands on the steering wheel, engine off, just breathing. Here's what I kept coming back to. Ryan was at our wedding. He gave a toast, raised a glass to true love and new beginnings. I have a photograph somewhere of him hugging Megan on the dance floor, both of them laughing. 4 years ago was the buyout. But we'd been married 5 years at that point. Had it started before? During? Was their whole relationship built on lies I was only now beginning to uncover? I texted Valerie from that parking lot. "Keep investigating. I need the full picture." Her response was immediate. "Understood. Will advise." I sat there for another 20 minutes, just breathing, trying to process. The steering wheel felt strange under my hands, like it belonged to someone else's car. Here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just change the present. It rewrites the past. Every memory I had of my marriage was now suspect. Every night she said she loved me, every morning she kissed me goodbye, Every holiday and birthday and anniversary, all of it had to be re-examined. Had she been seeing him then? Thinking about him? Wishing she was somewhere else? The mathematics of deception are brutal. If she'd been lying for 3 years, that was over 1,000 days, 1,000 mornings, 1,000 I love yous that meant nothing. I drove home eventually, walked in the door and found her in the kitchen making dinner. Something with garlic and wine. It smelled incredible. "Hey, you," she smiled over her shoulder. "Long day?" "Something like that." "Dinner in 20. Want to open a bottle of red?" "Sure." I watched her move around the kitchen, efficient and graceful. This woman I'd shared a bed with for almost a decade. This stranger. "You okay?" she asked, catching something in my expression. "Fine, just tired." "Well, sit down. Let me take care of you." I sat. She poured my wine. And I thought, how many times have you come home from him and made me dinner? How many times have you washed him off in the shower and then crawled into my bed? The wine tasted like ashes. Over the next few days, I turned into an archaeologist of my own marriage. I went through old photos looking for clues I'd missed. Company events, holiday parties, backyard barbecues, and there they were, again and again. Megan and Ryan standing close, heads tilted toward each other, eye contact that lasted a beat too long. I'd never noticed. Why would I? He was my partner. She was my wife. I trusted them both completely. I found an old external hard drive in my home office, backup data from a phone I'd switched out 3 years ago. I'd forgotten it existed until I was digging through my desk drawers looking for, I don't know what. Proof. Clarity. I plugged it in and searched Megan's old text threads. Nothing obvious at first. But there were gaps. Whole conversations deleted, showing only as contact removed. I cross-referenced the timing with my calendar. The deletions happened when I was traveling. Always when I was traveling. The picture was forming, and it was uglier than I'd imagined. One night, going through old email archives, I found something that stopped me cold. A message from Ryan to me, dated 3 years ago, apologizing for missing a company dinner. "Something came up," he'd written. "Tell Megan I'm sorry I couldn't make it." But I checked my calendar. Megan had missed that dinner too. Said she was sick, stayed home. They'd been together 3 years ago, while I was at a business dinner making excuses for both of them. The coldness in my chest spread a little further. On day 13, Valerie called with the hospital report. "I have a contact there," she said. "Unofficial channel. You didn't hear this from me." The ER report showed a fractured finger and facial bruising. Megan had told the staff she fell, but the nurse's notes told a different story. The injuries weren't consistent with a fall. Classic defensive wound patterns, the kind you get when you're protecting your face from someone's fists. Someone had hurt Megan that night, and she'd hidden it. "There's more," Valerie said. "I cross-referenced that night with police reports in the area. There was a 911 call from a house 3 blocks from the hotel. Domestic disturbance. No arrest made." "Whose house?" "Ryan Caldwell's." I sat with that for a long moment. Ryan was married. I knew that. His wife was Jennifer, some kind of trust fund situation, family money. They had 2 kids. "You think Jennifer found out?" I said slowly. "Confronted Megan. Things got physical." That's my read. Megan went to the ER alone to avoid explaining how she really got hurt. "She protected the affair," I said, "over her own safety." People do strange things when they're in deep. I thanked Valerie and hung up. Then I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about a woman who would rather hide a beating than admit what she'd done. She was never going to leave him voluntarily. She was never going to tell me the truth, which meant I had to be the one to end this. On my terms. Derek's office was on the 14th floor of a downtown high-rise. The kind of building that announces itself, marble lobby, security desk, elevators that move silently and smell like money. Jesus Christ, Derek said when I finished spreading Valerie's reports across his conference table. He'd been making notes, but now the pen had stopped moving. Connor, this is comprehensive. Is it enough? Enough? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. In Virginia, this is a slam dunk. Adultery is still grounds for fault-based divorce. With this documentation, you could argue for reduced property division, elimination of spousal support, the works. What about the business? Derek leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. That's more complicated. She's been your wife for 9 years during the company's biggest growth period. She could argue she supported your career, took care of the household, enabled your success. A judge might look at that and decide she's entitled to a piece. The company's worth around $14 million now. And she could claim some percentage of that appreciation happened because of her support. Marital property is complicated. I thought about Megan feeding Ryan information about my bids, helping him compete against me while I paid for her car and her clothes and her secret gym membership. I want her to have nothing. Derek studied me for a long moment. He'd known me since college, had seen me drunk, seen me heartbroken over other women, seen me work myself nearly to death building this business. But he'd never seen this version of me. What exactly do you want here, Connor? A clean divorce? A fair split? Or something else? I don't just want a divorce, I said slowly. I want her to understand what she lost. I want her to know that all those years of playing me for a fool had consequences. And I want Ryan Caldwell to watch his whole world burn. That's a tall order. That's why I'm hiring you. Derek smiled. First real smile of the meeting. Then we need to talk strategy, timing, asset protection, leverage. Let's start with the prenup. The first thing Derek did was review our prenup. His office was all leather chairs and law books and a view of the city skyline. I spread Valerie's reports across his conference table. He whistled low when he finished reading. This is one of the most documented cases of infidelity I've ever seen. Is it enough? In Virginia? Absolutely. Adultery is still grounds for fault-based divorce. It affects spousal support, property division, the whole picture. He leaned back. But we need to protect your business. She's been your wife for 9 years during its biggest growth period. She could argue she supported your career, enabled your success. The company's worth around $14 million now. And your house? $1.1 million, mostly paid off. Derek nodded slowly. What do you want here, Connor? A clean divorce? Fair split? I thought about Ryan's hand on her back. The deleted texts. 3 years of lies. I don't just want a divorce, I said. I want her to understand what she lost. Derek studied me for a moment. Then we need to talk strategy, timing, asset protection, leverage. I'm listening. The first thing Derek did was review our prenup. We had one. Megan had actually insisted on it before we got married. Protects both of us, she'd said. I'd found it romantic at the time, a sign that she wasn't marrying me for money. Now I found the infidelity clause. Neither party shall engage in extramarital relations during the course of the marriage. In the event of proven adultery, the offending party forfeits all claims to spousal support. She'd put that clause in herself. Probably never imagined it would apply to her. I spent the next week quietly restructuring my finances. Nothing illegal, Derek made sure of that, but I moved liquid assets into protected business accounts, documented everything, created paper trails that showed legitimate operational necessity. If Megan's lawyer tried to claim I was hiding money, every transaction would have a boring, defensible explanation. Valerie's final report came on day 25. Comprehensive, brutal. The affair had been going on for at least 3 years. Hotel records, parking garage footage, restaurant receipts. She'd built a timeline that was practically airtight. But there was more. She has a personal bank account you didn't know about, Valerie said. $40,000 in it currently. Deposits have been regular, $1,000 to $2,000 monthly, from an LLC that traces back to Ryan Caldwell. He's been paying her? Gifts, consulting fees for marketing advice. She does work in marketing, so it's plausibly deniable. Shopping money, whatever you want to call it. Valerie paused. She's been taking his money for years. I absorbed that. My wife had been financially entangled with my enemy for years, right under my nose. Not just an affair, a whole parallel life I knew nothing about. What's the total amount over 3 years? I asked. Valerie checked her notes. Approximately $72,000 based on the deposit records I could access. $72,000. Ryan had given my wife $72,000 while she was married to me, sleeping in my bed, spending my money. There's something else, Valerie said. I looked at some of your lost bids over the past 2 years, cross-referenced them with your calendar, with her access to your home office. And I can't prove anything definitively, but there's a pattern. Several major bids you lost happened right after Megan had time alone in your home office. Documents you might have left out. Computer you might have left unlocked. Valerie met my eyes. She could have seen your numbers, your expansion plans, your client targets. You're saying she fed him information. I'm saying the timing is suggestive. Nothing criminal, no trade secrets, no contract violations that I can find, but enough to give him an edge in competitive situations. She paused. She didn't just cheat on you, Mr. Taylor. She's been helping him try to take you down. I sat with that for a long time. The betrayal had layers, like an onion. Every time I thought I'd reached the core, there was something worse underneath. I need to think, I said finally. Take your time. But Mr. Taylor, don't wait too long. The longer you sit on this, the more time they have to figure out you know. I did something unexpected next. I reached out to Jennifer Caldwell. Not through lawyers or intermediaries. I found her number, called her directly. This is Connor Taylor, I said when she answered. I think you and I have something to discuss. Silence. Then, yes? I suppose we do. We met at a public park the following afternoon. She was younger than I expected. Early 30s, blonde, the kind of put-together look that comes from money and practice. But her eyes were tired, exhausted. I know who you are, she said, as we walked along a path lined with bare trees. Ryan's old partner, the one he's always ranting about. Did he tell you why we split? He said you cheated him, forced him out. I forced him out because he was feeding information to our competitors. I have the documentation to prove it. I paused. I'm starting to think that wasn't the only thing he was doing behind my back. Jennifer laughed bitterly. No, it wasn't. She told me her side. She'd found texts on Ryan's phone a month ago. Explicit stuff. Messages that left no room for interpretation. She'd confronted him, and he'd denied everything, called her paranoid, told her she was seeing things that weren't there. Classic gaslighting. So she'd followed him. Sat in her car outside his office and tailed him to the hotel. Found him with Megan in the lobby, holding hands like teenagers. I went to the house when I knew he wasn't there, she said. Megan was waiting for him. I lost it. I'm not proud of what I did. You hit her. She hit back. It wasn't my finest moment. Jennifer's jaw tightened. I've been trying to figure out what to do ever since. Ryan's gaslighting me, telling me it's over, that I imagined it, that I'm crazy. He's not ending it. No, he's planning to leave me. She stopped walking, turned to face me. He's been moving money around, setting up accounts. He told Megan they'd be together soon. I found more texts last week. Her voice cracked slightly. He thinks he's going to get half my family's money and start fresh with your wife. What do you want to do about it? I want to destroy him, she said simply. I just don't know how. I think I can help with that. She turned to face me fully, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. Why would you help me? Because we want the same thing, and because together, we're stronger than separately. What do you have in mind? We coordinate, file at the same time, serve them at the same time, hit them from both sides before they know what's happening. Jennifer was quiet for a moment, considering. The wind picked up, scattering leaves across the path. Ryan's been moving money, she said finally. I've seen the statements. He thinks he's being clever, but my father's people have forensic accountants who can follow a dollar through a hurricane. Perfect. We build the case first. Documentation, timelines, financial records. When we strike hard. And they don't see it coming. Not until it's too late. She extended her hand. Partners? I shook it. Partners. Walking back to my car, I felt something I hadn't felt since this all started. Hope. Not happiness. I was a long way from that. But a sense of forward motion. A plan taking shape. They'd tried to destroy me together. Now they'd burn together. Over the next week, Jennifer and I became unlikely allies. We shared information, coordinated with our respective attorneys, built a unified strategy. Two betrayed spouses with one common goal. We met twice at that same park, walking the paths like we were just old friends catching up. Anyone watching would have seen nothing unusual. Two people talking, occasionally laughing bitterly at something, shaking their heads at the absurdity of their situation. I keep thinking about the signs I missed, Jennifer said during one of these walks. The late nights, the business trips that didn't quite add up, the way he'd be so nice after coming home from wherever he'd been. Guilt gifts, I said. What? That's what my therapist calls them. The unexpected presence, the sudden attentiveness. It's overcompensation for what they're doing behind your back. Jennifer nodded slowly. He bought me a bracelet last month. Diamond. I thought he was just being sweet. Probably bought it the same day he saw Megan. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. God, what a pair we make. We file on the same day, I said, steering us back to business. Same time if we can manage it. They get served simultaneously. No warning, no time to prepare, no chance to coordinate their stories. Ryan will panic, Jennifer said. That's the idea. He's good at manipulation when he has time to think. Take away the time, he'll make mistakes. What about Megan? I thought about my wife, the woman I'd loved for almost a decade, the stranger I now shared a house with. She'll panic too. She'll call me. I won't answer. She'll call Ryan. He'll be dealing with his own disaster. Neither of them will know what to do. And then? And then we watched them tear each other apart. My lawyer was handling the divorce filing. Jennifer's family had their own legal team. Old money, old connections. Between us, we had enough firepower to make this very uncomfortable for everyone involved. But I wanted one more piece. I wanted to know if Megan was still feeding Ryan information about my business. So I set a trap. I invited Ryan to lunch. Valerie thought I was crazy. You're going to sit across from the man who's sleeping with your wife and act like nothing's wrong? That's exactly what I'm going to do. Why? Because he doesn't know I know. And that's an advantage I'm not ready to give up. I called Ryan's office the next day. Ryan, Connor Taylor, I've been thinking about the old days. Life's too short for grudges. Let me buy you a drink. The pause on his end was delicious. I could practically hear him calculating, suspicion warring with curiosity, caution battling arrogance. Connor, that's unexpected. I know we didn't part on the best terms, but that was 4 years ago. We've both moved on, built our own things. I kept my voice light, friendly. The voice of a man who had no idea his world was on fire. What do you say? One lunch? Clear the air? Sure, he said finally. Why not? We met at an upscale steakhouse downtown. Dim lighting, white tablecloths, the kind of place where deals get made. He looked good. Expensive suit, confident smile, the air of a man who thinks he's winning at life. Connor, he shook my hand firmly. It's been too long. It has. We ordered drinks, made small talk, caught up on mutual acquaintances, industry gossip, the usual pleasantries. He was relaxed, almost smug. Why wouldn't he be? He had everything he wanted, his company growing, my wife in his bed, and me none the wiser. Except I was very wiser, and I was playing him like a fiddle. So I'm looking at a big move, I said casually over our steaks. Acquisition. Small regional carrier out of Richmond. Good routes, undervalued assets. His eyes sharpened slightly. Yeah? Yeah, the numbers make sense. Could expand our footprint significantly. What's the target? I gave him a name, completely fictional, and watched him file it away. We're still doing due diligence, I said. Probably pull the trigger in a few weeks. Sounds ambitious. Well, you know me, always looking for the next thing, he laughed. That I do. When I got home that night, I left documents on my desk relating to the fake acquisition. Fake financials, fake projections, fake everything. Then I went to bed early. The next morning, those documents had been moved. Just slightly, she'd tried to put them back exactly as they were. But I'd photographed them before I went to sleep. Megan had looked at them. And if I was right, Ryan would soon know exactly what I was planning. Let him act on false information. Let him show his hand. D-Day was a Tuesday. I chose it deliberately. I wanted the symmetry. Exactly 5 weeks after I found that bracelet in the dryer. Exactly 5 weeks of watching, waiting, planning, pretending. The night before, I lay awake until almost 3 a.m. Not nervous, exactly. More like coiled. Ready? A spring about to release? I thought about what Megan was doing. Probably sleeping peacefully, curled up on her side of the bed, dreaming about whatever she dreamed about. Did she dream about Ryan? About the life they were planning together? About leaving me? I'd never know. I'd never ask. In the morning, everything would change. She just didn't know it yet. 8 a.m. Megan kissed me goodbye and left for work. Same routine as always. Same smile. Same, have a good day. 9 a.m. I filed for divorce. Jennifer filed in her jurisdiction at the same moment. Our lawyers had coordinated down to the minute. 10 a.m. Process servers arrived at both Megan's office and Ryan's office. I'd hired professionals, efficient, discreet, simultaneous. I sat in my home office and waited. My phone sat silent on the desk. I'd turned off notifications. At 10:17 a.m., Megan called. I watched the screen light up, watched her name pulse with each ring, and I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again. The fourth time, she left a message. I listened to it once. Connor, I don't understand what's happening. There's been some kind of mistake. Please call me back. Please. I deleted it. At 10:32, she texted, Connor, please. Whatever this is, we can work it out. I love you. I didn't respond. At 10:47, another text. At least tell me what's happening. I'm scared. Scared. She should be. At 10:45, Valerie texted me. Caldwell just called your wife's phone. Intercepted audio via parking garage pickup. He said, they know everything. We need to talk. I smiled. First time I'd smiled genuinely in weeks. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer this time. Ryan just got served. He's losing his mind. His assistant said he threw his phone across the office. Good. Let him panic. Let them both panic. At noon, I got a call from a business reporter I'd cultivated over the years. Connor, I got an anonymous tip about Ryan Caldwell's company. Something about a messy divorce, possible fraud investigation. You know anything about that? I really couldn't comment, I said, but you might want to look into it. The tip wasn't anonymous, of course, but he didn't need to know that. By 2 p.m., Ryan's phone was ringing off the hook. Clients asking questions, partners getting nervous. The business world is small, and reputation is everything. When people hear fraud investigation, they don't wait for verdicts. They run. I spent the afternoon in my office catching up on actual work. Strange how calm I felt, like the eye of a hurricane. Everything was in motion now. Nothing left to do but watch it unfold. Megan came home at 5:30 p.m. I was sitting in the living room when she walked in. Just sitting there, lights off, waiting. She stopped in the doorway when she saw me. Connor. Megan. She looked terrible. Makeup smeared, eyes red, hands shaking. Whatever composure she'd maintained at the office had crumbled on the drive home. How long have you known? Long enough. She moved into the room slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal. Her heels clicked on the hardwood floor. She stopped about 6 feet away, close enough to talk, far enough to run if she needed to. Connor, please. We need to talk about this. I can explain. No, I said. We can't. Just let me tell you what's going to happen now. My voice was calm. I'd practiced this in my head 100 times, lying awake at night, waiting for this moment. My lawyer will be in touch about the settlement. You can keep your personal belongings and your car, the house, the accounts, the spousal support. You forfeited those when you violated the prenup. 3 years ago, minimum? 3 years? Her voice cracked. You know it's been 3 years? I know everything. The Ashford Hotel, the parking garage where he puts his hand on your back, the secret bank account with $72,000 of his money in it. I paused. Let each revelation land like a blow. I know about the payments from his LLC. I know about the documents you copied from my office. I know about the bids I lost because you were feeding him my information. The color drained from her face. She looked like she might be sick. Connor, that's not how it. There's documentation for all of it. Photographs, financial records, surveillance reports, hotel bookings. 3 years worth of evidence. Your lawyer can review it all during discovery, but I promise you, there's no angle here. There's no way to spin this. You did what you did, and now there are consequences. She stood there trembling, tears streaming down her face, makeup running in dark streaks down her cheeks. Connor, please. Her voice was barely a whisper now. I loved you. I still love you. Ryan, he got in my head. He told me you didn't appreciate me, that you worked too much, that I deserved better. And you believed him. I don't know. I don't know what I believed. It started as just... I was lonely, Connor. You were always traveling, always working. And he was there and he listened and you decided to sleep with him. For 3 years. While living in my house, spending my money, pretending to be my wife. I was your wife. I am your wife. Not anymore. I stood up. She flinched back like she expected me to hit her. I would never hit her. That wasn't who I was. But the fact that she flinched told me something. Ryan had trained her to expect violence from angry men. You're staying at a hotel tonight, I said. I'll have your things packed and sent wherever you end up. Jennifer Caldwell filed for divorce today too. Same time as me. Ryan's going to have his hands full dealing with his own disaster. Whatever you two thought you were building together, it's over. Jennifer knows? Jennifer's known for a month. Where do you think those bruises came from the night you went to the ER? Megan's hand went to her face involuntarily, touching the spot where the bruising had long since faded. She beat you up in Ryan's own house, I continued, and you went to the emergency room alone, at 3 in the morning and then came home and lied to me about it. You protected the affair over your own safety. You protected him over our marriage. I didn't want to hurt you. Too late. I walked past her toward the stairs. She grabbed my arm. Connor, wait. Please. We can fix this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need. I'll do anything. I looked at her hand on my arm. This hand that had touched Ryan. That had held his face, run through his hair, done things I didn't want to imagine. You didn't fall in love with him, I said quietly. You fell into his plan, and you helped him try to destroy everything I built. I pulled my arm free. That's not love, Megan. That's collaboration. I went upstairs and closed the bedroom door. A few minutes later, I heard her car start in the driveway. She was gone. She tried to fight the prenup. Of course she did. Her lawyer was decent, a woman named Patricia something, lots of courtroom experience. She argued duress, claimed Megan had been pressured into signing. She argued the terms were unconscionable, unfair, designed to punish rather than protect. She argued the documentation had been obtained improperly, invasion of privacy, illegal surveillance, fruit of the poison tree. None of it stuck. Derek was better. Point by point, he demolished every argument. The prenup had been reviewed by independent counsel before signing. Megan had insisted on the infidelity clause herself. The surveillance had been conducted legally. Virginia is a one-party consent state, and everything Valerie did was above board. The evidence was overwhelming. 3 years of photographs, hotel records with Megan's car in the same parking garage, same floor, same time frame, week after week. Financial records showing regular deposits from Ryan's LLC. Depositions from hotel staff who recognized her by name. Credit card receipts. Text messages recovered from cloud backups. The judge, an older woman with reading glasses and zero tolerance for theatrics, looked at the infidelity clause, looked at the mountain of evidence, and ruled it enforceable. Mrs. Taylor, she said, you drafted this clause yourself. You insisted it apply equally to both parties. The court finds that you have violated the terms of your own prenuptial agreement, and the consequences specified therein are therefore applicable. Megan got her clothes, her car, and her personal jewelry. Everything else stayed with me. She cried in the courtroom. I felt nothing. Ryan's situation was worse. Jennifer's family had resources I couldn't match, and motivation I could only admire. Her father, old money, construction empire, very protective of his daughter, unleashed his legal team like hounds on a hunt. They hired forensic accountants who spent 3 weeks going through Ryan's finances with a fine-toothed comb. What they found was damning. Ryan had been hiding income for years, skimming from his own company, understating profits, funneling money through shell corporations into offshore accounts. He'd been planning to leave Jennifer for a long time. The affair with Megan wasn't impulsive. It was part of a larger exit strategy. His business got flagged for a formal investigation. The IRS opened a case file. State regulators started asking questions about his licensing, his contracts, his employment practices. Clients fled in droves. Nobody wants to be associated with a company under investigation. 3 of his biggest accounts called me directly, asking if I could take over their contracts. I said yes. Industry publications picked up the story. Not front-page news, but the logistics world is small and gossip travels fast. The headlines were brutal. Local businessman faces fraud allegations amid messy divorce. Ryan Caldwell became toxic. Nobody wanted to work with him. Nobody wanted to shake his hand at industry events. His business partners started distancing themselves, putting out statements about corporate restructuring and mutual separation of interests. During his deposition, I got the transcript from Jennifer later, something came out that even I hadn't expected. The opposing lawyer asked, "Mr. Caldwell, when did your relationship with Megan Taylor begin?" And Ryan, under oath, trying to minimize his culpability, admitted the truth. I specifically reached out to her after the business split. I knew Connor wasn't attending a particular conference. I made it a point to be there. So this relationship was premeditated? That's not. You targeted your former partner's wife deliberately, as revenge for the buyout. Silence. Mr. Caldwell? She was receptive, that's all I can say. When Megan learned this, through discovery documents shared between the two divorce cases, it broke something in her. I heard the story through Jennifer, who heard it from a friend who worked at Ryan's building. Megan had shown up at Ryan's apartment unannounced. There was screaming, crying, accusations. She'd apparently thrown something at him, a lamp maybe, or a book, and demanded to know if any of it had been real. "Tell me you loved me," she'd said. "Tell me it wasn't all just to hurt him." And Ryan, cornered, defensive, probably calculating even then what angle would serve him best, said, "I did love you, eventually. But yeah, at first, you were useful. Eventually. Useful." She'd destroyed her marriage for a man who saw her first and foremost as a weapon, an instrument of revenge, a tool to hurt me with. The love, if it ever really existed, came later. And even then it was tangled up in manipulation and self-interest. I tried to feel sorry for her. Some part of me wanted to. She'd been played in her own way. Ryan had targeted her deliberately, exploited her loneliness, told her the lies she wanted to hear. But then I remembered 3 years of deception. 3 years of lies to my face. 3 years of helping him compete against me while she slept in my bed. I couldn't quite manage the sympathy. The divorce was finalized on a Thursday afternoon in late spring. I walked out of the courthouse into sunshine and birdsong, and the strange lightness of having your entire life restructured in 90 minutes of legal procedure. The house was already under contract. I couldn't stay there, too many memories, and I'd put a deposit on a new place downtown. Modern building, clean lines, no ghosts. I kept the business, kept 90% of our joint assets. Won. But standing on those courthouse steps, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollowed out. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just the shell. I'd spent 5 weeks planning this, months executing it, and now it was done, and I didn't know what came next. I went to dinner alone that night. Nice restaurant, corner table, glass of wine I barely tasted. I watched other couples around me, laughing, touching, making plans, and I felt like an anthropologist studying a foreign species. Did they trust each other? Really trust each other? Or were they all just waiting for the other shoe to drop? 9 years. I'd given her 9 years. And every single day of those years, she'd been deciding whether to stay or go. She'd chosen Ryan in the end. She'd just forgotten to tell me until I found the evidence myself. The waiter asked if I was celebrating something. I almost laughed. "Just a business milestone," I said. Close enough to the truth. The first few weeks after the divorce were strange. The house felt too quiet, even though Megan had never been particularly loud. I found myself pausing in doorways, listening for sounds that weren't there anymore. The coffee maker seemed louder. The refrigerator hummed like it was trying to tell me something. I didn't miss her. That was the strange part. I missed the idea of her, the woman I thought she was, the life I thought we were building. But the actual Megan, the one who'd lied to me for years, who'd helped my enemy compete against me, who'd chosen another man's bed over our marriage. I didn't miss her at all. I did miss certainty. I missed being able to trust my own judgment. I missed looking at the world and feeling like I understood how it worked. 3 months later, I was back on solid ground. Work helped. We won 3 major contracts that Ryan's failing company had been pursuing, legitimately, without any inside information. Just better service, better prices, better reputation. His business collapsed entirely by summer's end. I heard he moved to Florida. Didn't care enough to confirm. I started seeing a therapist, a woman named Dr. Patterson, recommended by my regular doctor. I wasn't depressed exactly. More like recalibrating, learning to trust myself again. You trusted her, Dr. Patterson said during one of our early sessions. That's not a character flaw. That's what marriage is supposed to be. I trusted him too, Ryan, my partner. And they both betrayed that trust. That says something about them, Connor. Not about you. But I missed the signs, for years. How does someone miss something like that? She leaned forward slightly. Because you weren't looking for it. Because healthy people don't assume their spouse is lying to them. The failure here wasn't your lack of suspicion, it was their betrayal of your trust. Easy to say, harder to believe. But over time, session by session, it started to sink in. I got a text from Jennifer Caldwell one evening in October. We'd stayed in loose contact. Survivor's bond, I guess. Two people who'd been through the same particular hell. Ryan's engaged again. Some woman in Florida. He moved fast. Should I warn her? I thought about it for a long time. This woman, whoever she was, had no idea what she was getting into. Ryan would charm her the same way he'd charmed Megan, the same way he'd charmed Jennifer. He was good at it. It was his only real skill. But I remembered what Dr. Patterson said about trust, about how some lessons can't be taught. They have to be lived. I typed back, no. Some lessons people have to learn themselves. Jennifer's response, that's cold. Maybe it was. But I was done saving people from their own choices. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Derek at a bar downtown. We'd kept in touch. Hard not to, after everything. And he filled me in on the latest. Ryan's company officially dissolved last month, he said over whiskeys. Couldn't make payroll. The IRS liens ate up whatever was left. Where is he now? Florida, Miami, I think. Started some kind of consulting gig. Probably running another con. Jennifer? Remarried. Nice guy, boring job. She seems happy. Derek swirled his drink. And Megan? I shrugged. Don't know, don't care. You ever think about reaching out, getting closure? Closure is for people who don't have evidence folders. Derek laughed. Fair enough. We drank in silence for a while. The bar was crowded, loud music, people celebrating things I couldn't imagine celebrating anymore. For what it's worth, Derek said finally, you handled this better than anyone I've ever seen. Most guys in your position, they go crazy, make mistakes. You were surgical. I learned from my father's mistakes. Maybe, or maybe you're just built different. He raised his glass. To the ones who got away. I clinked my glass against his. To the ones who got caught. I ran into Megan once, about a year after the divorce was final. It was accidental, a coffee shop near my new office. I walked in, ordered my usual, turned around, and there she was. Sitting alone at a corner table with a laptop and a half-eaten muffin. She looked different. Older, though that might have been my imagination. Tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Her hair was shorter. She wasn't wearing any jewelry I recognized. We stared at each other for a long moment. Connor, she said. Megan? Silence. The barista called my name. I grabbed my coffee, considered walking out without another word. Instead, I walked over to her table. How are you? I asked. It came out flat, neutral. Just words. I'm okay, she gestured vaguely. Getting by. Your job? Still there. They didn't care about the personal stuff. She almost smiled. Good thing I'm good at my work. I nodded. Didn't have anything else to say. Connor? Her voice was smaller now. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything. But I am. I thought about all the things I could say. all the anger I could unleash now that we were past lawyers and judges and court orders, all the questions I'd never gotten answers to. But standing there in that coffee shop, looking at this woman who'd been my wife for nearly a decade, I realized I didn't care anymore. The rage had burned itself out. The hurt had scabbed over. What was left was just indifference. Take care of yourself, Megan. I walked out without looking back. The coffee in my hand was still warm. The sun was shining. And somewhere inside me, a door that had been open for a very long time finally closed. I sold the company 18 months later. It wasn't planned exactly. A national logistics firm approached me about acquisition, made an offer that was higher than anything I'd expected. My CFO ran the numbers. My lawyer reviewed the terms. And on a Tuesday morning in September, I signed papers that made me wealthy enough to never work again. The board members shook my hand. The acquiring CEO gave a speech about visionary leadership and market positioning. I smiled and nodded and thought about all the mornings I'd spent in that office, building something from nothing. Megan had been my wife for most of those years. She'd rubbed my shoulders when I came home stressed, made dinner when I worked late, told me she was proud of what I was building, and all that time, she'd been selling pieces of it to my enemy. I kept the final check in my pocket for a week before depositing it, just to feel the weight of it, just to know it was real. The last thing I did before leaving my old office for good was clean out my files. 12 years of documents, contracts, memos, meeting notes. Most of it went to storage or the shredder. At the bottom of a drawer, I found Valerie's folder. The photographs, the surveillance reports, the hotel records and financial statements and deposition transcripts that had ended my marriage. And underneath it all, wrapped in plastic like evidence from a crime scene, the hospital bracelet. I'd kept it. I don't know why. Some kind of talisman, maybe? A reminder of the moment everything changed. I held it in my hand for a long time. Such a small thing, practically weightless. A strip of plastic with a name and a date and a lie attached to it. Emergency room. Megan Taylor. 2:47 a.m. The start of everything. I dropped it in the trash can next to my desk. Heard it hit the bottom with a soft plastic thud. Such a small thing. A strip of plastic with a name and a date. The moment that rewrote everything I thought I knew about my life. I walked out of that office without looking back. The hallway was quiet. The elevator was empty. The lobby echoed with my footsteps. Outside, the sun was shining. People were walking past, living their lives, dealing with their own problems. None of them knew what I'd been through. None of them cared. And that was fine. That was exactly right. Some stories end with reconciliation. Some end with forgiveness. This one ended with a trash can and a closed door, and the knowledge that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well and watching them fail.